let's take a look at the word social. This one is a doozy, but we can have a little fun with it if we look at the phonology and the morphology. So I really think looking at both can help our students understand this word, and it helps me. So let's look at it first, look at its sounds first. So this word has two syllables. We have so, and that looks fine. S-O spells so, that's good. And then it has shoal. This is where it gets a little bit tricky. If you break up the sounds in shoal, we have C-I spells sh. And that's tricky enough because our poor students, right? First they learn that C spells k, and then later they learn that if an I, E, or Y comes after C, it'll make that soft sound S. And now you get to these words and you have C-I spelling sh. Here's the thing though. This is where morphology can help. It pretty much only does that when it is the end of a root or base attaching to a suffix. So it'll make a little bit more sense when you see how this word is broken up and then other words that I'm going to use that are related. But that's when it makes that sh sound. That's why they don't see, we don't need to teach that C can spell sh until much later, because it happens when this is the end of a root and it's combined with a suffix. That's when this happens. So, but again, when we're just looking at this, looking at the sounds of this and trying to sound it out, that's really tricky. The other tricky thing is the A is such a schwa sound. It's so faint. You barely hear it. You really just kind of hear the ol, which is kind of common, right? Like you'll see a lot of bigger words where there's a vowel and then an L and it just sounds like ol. So that's not super unusual, but it does help. And this is something you see in phonics programs, and I'm not against it. I actually use it too because I think it could be helpful for decoding purposes. This is what some call a final stable syllable, which means when you see these letters as the last syllable in a word, like it's at the end of a word, it very consistently says shoal. So we can teach our students, if you see C-I-A-L, it will say shoal pretty consistently. It's that final stable. So that's okay to teach because I do think that that helps some of our students when it comes to decoding. But when it comes to all the other things, I really want to dig deeper into this word. So that's my first thing, is just seeing that's always a syllable and it says shoal. That helps with decoding. So I think I've covered the phonology. Now let's look at the morphology. I want to preface by saying, when I first did this, I really didn't have a clue what the root was, but here's what I did know. I know that AL is a common suffix. Seen it before in lots and lots of words. I also know that I is often a connector vowel before that suffix AL. So I could peel away the affixes that I knew. So affixes or prefixes, suffixes, connector vowels. So I peeled away IAL. So now what's left is SOC. And I can't break it down any further because I don't see any other prefixes or suffixes that I could peel off. So I can trust that SOC is probably the root. I did look into it later. It is. So I'm going to write a word sum now. SOC plus I plus AL makes social. And we can have some fun and I can say, well, what is it then if I add the other suffix, ly? Now it becomes socially. And if I were to write it, here, I'll add it to this word here so you can see all the circles. There it is. Beep. Now there's 3 affixes with that. So then we can think about other words that we know, like socialize. So that would be, instead of adding ly, I would add ize. I can do socialist. Those are 2 I thought of: socially, socialize, socialist. But what it does is it's showing how this word is coming together. And I'm going to explain to my students here, I'm going to take this off. I'm going to explain to them that this is how the word was made. There are other words with this same SOC. They know the word root, they've heard it. And then these parts were added to it. And these are parts that we've seen before in other words. And what happens is when we add those parts onto that root, it kind of messes up the pronunciation. And we've also seen that happen before, where when we add certain suffixes to words, all of a sudden the base word changes its pronunciation. So that's not new or different. So then I'm going to go back to that idea of when you see cial, it spells shul, and that is true, and that can help us with decoding. But here's what's really happening is it's actually part of that. This is that root or the base, and then we're adding those two affixes onto it. But I didn't stop there. I really wanted to drive home this idea of two things. One, seeing cial and remembering to say shul, which again helps with decoding. And number two, just the idea of the suffixes and the bases. So these words, actually all three of these are a little easier because they don't have that abstract root. Like, I feel like social had that, it was a little more abstract, like SOC isn't a word by itself, so that's tricky. These ones though are words when you peel off. So let's go ahead and peel off and you tell me, well, in your head, tell me what is the base. So here is my suffix al, there is my connector vowel I. What is the base word? Well, the base word is face. Remember how I talked about how pronunciation changes? So we had, here's the word face. And when we add connector vowel I and suffix al, here's what's happened. We've seen it before. That is a vowel suffix, so we need to drop that E. That's how we get facial. And I'm gonna point out, notice how in base word face, the C says that soft sound. But then when I go and add all of these suffixes, it changes to that sh sound to make facial. And now let's look at it as if we're just using our sounds, right? I can also remember, I know that says shul. That's a syllable. Now here's my first syllable. That's an open A, facial. Let's look at the next one. We'll go backward. Let's find our final stable syllable, shul. And now I have an open syllable here. That's ray. The word is racial. But I don't want to stop there. I want to know what the base is. I want to connect it. So I have al, woo. I have I. What do you think the base is? Oh, this is similar to the one we just did. Surprised, not surprised. Race plus I plus al. So racial is base word race. Again, where that C spells S. And then when we added those suffixes, it got all, turned into show. But it's very similar to what happened to the other words that we've looked at so far. Again, we dropped that E. Now let's look at this last one. If I'm gonna read it, there's a few more vowels. So I wanna say, here is my final stable syllable. And then I have two other vowels. And what do I normally do when there's two? I normally split it here. So it's like this. So the word is official. This is the word official. So what is the base word in official? And by this point, your students might be able to figure out it's the word office. Office plus I plus al. So I hope this was helpful. But when I found the word social, I didn't just say this is social and this is how the sounds match up. We broke it apart. We looked at the morphemes, and then we looked at other words that have the same similar patterns to help us remember. So I hope this was a helpful video. Then you can go a little further if you want to and make a little word map. You could also make a word matrix. I just did this at first to kind of like organize the words for myself, and then from there you can turn this into a word matrix. So there is our root in the middle, there is the word social that started it all, and these are words that also have social as a base, but they add other suffixes onto them. So socialize, socialist, socially. Society is another one that uses that root, and I like that because social and society really go together, and just in your social studies class, focusing on those two words together might be interesting. And then, of course, societies uses the suffix changing rule where when a word ends with Y and we add a suffix that's not ing, we're going to drop that Y, change it to I, and then we're going to add the suffix. And then we have associate, association, disassociate, and then sociable and sociology. So these are all just some words that we can make, and we can show them the words themselves, and then we can have our students take out their whiteboards and think about how they would turn this into a word sum. So we know it starts with SOC, and then we're going to ask them what comes next. Connector rel I, connector or suffix AL, and then what's next? IZE. So that's kind of fun to start with the words and then make a word sum based on the words that you make. You can also turn this into a word matrix where you have the root in the middle, any potential prefixes, and then suffixes on the other side. So I hope that this was a helpful video and you got some ideas. Even if you just use parts of it, let me know your questions in the comments.